Oh, there we go. I think we're. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's album review. So, got something a little bit different for you guys today. Or kind of a bit different. I'll show you, explain why. I'll share the screen. Brett has no idea what we're going to be reviewing. So, recently on our Arctic Monkeys reaction video, we got a message from, or a comment from Hannah Montgomery saying, if you think this is surprising, you should take a look into the transition from the AM album to the Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino album. So that must be where, I'm guessing that's where they kind of switched over. It's like, you know, they stopped being the, I don't know, I'm only assuming this, they stopped being the Arctic Monkeys of old and started this new style in the Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino album. It's a long name, that. So I gave Hannah the chance to appear on our channel. She hasn't replied, so obviously didn't want to. But I think it's a good idea to actually look into this transition. And so I've decided to review both of these albums. We'll do it as two separate albums, you know, as we normally do, one album. And the following album, we're going to go straight into the Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino album. So today, yeah, it's going to be the AM album we're going to do first. So Brett, can you see my screen on Wikipedia?
Yep, I can.
So it's their fifth album. Does have some singles on there. It's released in 2013. So drawing inspiration from a wide range of genres, including psychedelic rock, blues rock, hard rock, heavy metal, desert rock, R&B, and soul. AM notably marks Arctic Monkeys' first venture into hip hop. So maybe I'm wrong with this screw. I don't know. I just don't know anything. I don't really know much about Arctic Monkeys. I don't know what kind of what they've done really. I just always kind of envisaged them as like a kind of rock indie group. But I think that's just based on that one song. What's that song again?
Bet you look good on the dance floor.
Yeah, kind of just pretty much based on that, I think. So, anyway, as for the album itself, scroll down. It's got 12 tracks on it. It's not a very long album, really. 41 minutes, 38 seconds. Brett, do you recognize any of these tracks at all?
Yeah, I know the one track, and that's the opening track, Do I Want to Know?
Okay, that's interesting, because I don't recognize it. Maybe I'll know it when I hear it. What sort of genre is it?
Yeah, it's good. It's very slow. It's definitely not Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor. It definitely hasn't got that sort of indie rock kind of thing to it. It's sort of like a chilled out kind of, it's still like an indie song, but a bit more sort of chilled out, a bit slower, kind of on the verge of psychedelic, but a real low level. Like, not, you wouldn't think of it like, it's just very, very slow.
Okay. So what are you thinking for this album? You looking forward to it?
Yeah, like I said, based on that one track there, like I say, because it's not like Bet You Look Good on Dance Floor, and I quite like that song, the Do I Want to Know song. So, and just with the intro in terms of, you know, different genres there, and, you know, them sort of changing and not being how we perceive them to be. So I think there could be, I think it's going to be a real mixed bag, isn't it? I think there's going to be a few songs there probably might not like or enjoy. I think there might be a couple of ones that will grow on you, get to know them, and maybe one or two that's actually, okay, this is actually pretty good, and wouldn't think of it as Arctic Monkeys, but it's a good song and quite enjoy it. So, yeah, that sounds a bit of everything, really.
Yeah, I'm expecting quite a bit of variation here, which is what we normally like. So, yeah, should be an interesting one. Just stay away, please, from the Polish and Japanese bonus track. We're not going to go there, okay? So, I know what you're like, you know, sometimes it's something Polish or Japanese, you like to go there, but
yeah, especially there's a 1 minute silence as well in there as well for a 2 minute track.
Okay, So yeah, I'm quite intrigued by it. Don't know. I got no idea what to expect at all. Like you said, probably some of the stuff I'm not going to like, but hopefully there'll be other songs on there that are more to my liking. And of course, then we've got the second album of theirs to then listen to, which in itself is going to be something completely different, apparently, according to the comment. So yeah, we're going to head off and listen to the album. And we're going to see you again very shortly. So we've now listened to AM by Arctic Monkeys. Brett, do you want to tell us what you thought of it?
Yeah, I'm really struggling to sort of, in words, how to sort of describe the album. The one point I did want to make, because I feel really bad in the sense of we do this quite a lot when we've done a couple of things with Arctic Monkeys, where our sort of go-to is like that one or two songs that we knew back from our youth, and otherwise the rest of their stuff we don't really know. So I feel like we do a lot of comparison just based on, you know, Bet You Look Good on the Dance was a classic one we always go to. When we think of that song, we think of the Arctic Monkeys, when actually they had albums back there. There probably was a lot of other stuff on there which probably wasn't like that. So the point being is that I feel bad. I always feel comparing to that one song of theirs generally. But this album, I really quite liked actually. In the sense of when I'm looking down my list here, I've got a couple of sort of smiley face, couple of songs that I thought actually okay. It wasn't the Arctic Monkeys that I think of when I think about, you know, I bet you look good on the dance floor. But that's why I was making that apology, because I said there might have been other stuff on their earlier albums which did have some of these elements, because you could hear on this album there were elements which were like that first song, the Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor type of song, and then a lot which weren't like that, which is meant to say about this sort of transition period that they're coming through. But I feel like if this was the Arctic Monkeys that I knew back then, I probably would have given them a bit more time. I suppose. Not that I didn't like, you know, the stuff I did before. I just thought maybe it wouldn't be more of my cup of tea to listen to. But this album, I didn't mind listening to. And I said there were a couple of, you know, all right songs. Would they be enough to go on playlists? No, I don't know. But as an album listened to, I thought it was all right. It wasn't too long. The songs weren't too long. The songs were listenable, even though I didn't really care too much in the lyrics side of things. So yeah, I think overall gets a bit of a thumbs up from me, but in a very not sure how to really explain it kind of way.
Right. Okay. So not sure where to start with this. So I guess this album for me was kind of had different parts to it. If we start with the first 5 songs, which is almost basically the first half of the album, pretty much. I did not like those songs at all. I was, you know, getting ready to write like, this is just a disastrous album for me. Didn't like it. Really just didn't like those songs. We'll go through them shortly. They were not for me at all. But then when this sort of 6th track came on, I thought, okay, this is a lot better. And it kind of stayed that way, I'd say, throughout, you know, until the end, probably from track 6, probably to track 12. I think maybe the first 5, I don't know, something about them that I didn't like, which, again, we'll talk about them. We might be able to figure out exactly what it was. I think there's a bit of an ongoing theme there. So yeah, the second half of the album, I definitely preferred. I still didn't really like it. So this album was going to get a very big thumbs down from me. I've now upgraded it to just a bit of a thumbs down. I didn't like it overall, but at least some pride was salvaged. I say that like,
Yeah.
But you know, in my opinion, towards the second half of it, that made it kind of respectable. But it's not that
this is bad music. It's just not really my cup of tea, to be honest. Yeah, just not for me. But the second half of the album was all right. So, should we go through the tracks?
Yeah, we'll do our best. We'll do our best.
Okay, so track number 1, Do I Want to Know? This is quite a common theme throughout this album. I thought it had a kind of speaky style of singing. I don't know if you know what I mean by that. Quite spoken singing. And there's something about this I don't like. It was very speaky, as I'm calling it. It's kind of made up word I've created. What I noticed as well with this song and some of the others, there was no tune to it. So like the spoken sort of singing part was very kind of clear. It was also the longest track on the album, which is unusual for a first track. Overall, it was below average and just not my style of song. I like a proper song. that might, people probably dispute that. But as I say, it is a proper song. But for me, I don't know. It's not. When I say proper song, like a proper kind of tune to it and singing, whereas this just wasn't that. Brett, what did you think of it?
Yeah, listen, I don't disagree with anything that you said there. And I think some of the points you make are actually quite interesting. And I hadn't really thought of it like that. But the more you spoke about it, that's exactly right. Now, I generally don't mind that. And actually quite like that. But you're right. They didn't really have a tune. It was very speaky. There was a point where I did put one of them where it's almost like some of these tracks where it felt like they should have been a lot faster and were probably originally like that, but then they just sort of slowed it down and put like made an imaginary turning tune and just slowed the whole thing down in some regards. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying from there. However, this song, I think because I know the song, it was a release song, felt more familiar to it, so I actually quite like it. But you're absolutely right. It doesn't really have a tune. It is more sort of spoken. It is slow. And I think this is sort of a good example of somewhere sort of in that middle of being like what maybe was classed as old Arctic Monkeys and this sort of new transitional period that they're sort of going into. And it was interesting because we obviously have listened to one of their newer songs, haven't we, in one of the reactions and stuff. And that's obviously where it's totally different. So you feel like you can see where the progression is making to that. But that's something I said, song, because I know it, I do actually quite like this one.
Yeah, I didn't actually know this song. But just to add as well, like, I'm coming into this kind of blind in the sense of, well, maybe I should say deaf, because I don't know anything about Arctic Monkeys apart from, I bet you look good on the dance floor. And there's maybe a few more big hits they've had that I'm aware of as well, but if I heard them. But yeah, I don't really know what they did before, and I don't really know what they're doing now, apart from obviously the song we reacted to recently. So yeah, just kind of first time listening to Arctic Monkeys properly and just sort of saying what I thought of it.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying at the start. Like I said, so that's why it's hard because generally it's only those main hit songs of theirs. I think they were like the sun goes down kind of thing. And I said I do like those songs, but that's just my perception of what the Arctic Monkeys are like. So the rest of it is like going in blind because I don't know what other sort of stuff, on an album sense they would have done back in the day.
Okay. So the second track then is Are You Mine? The singing is faster in this one, but still without a proper tune. It feels quite messy, kind of all over the place. And I didn't like this one at all. I thought the previous song was much better, and that's saying something. This not a proper song for me. It's just a noisy racket. It's awful. This is the worst song on the album.
Yeah. So with this one here, this is where I put this feels like a real blend of them trying to do some of their older stuff and this sort of newer thing that they're trying at the same time. Okay, it didn't quite work. Didn't put the word messy, but it felt like it was trying to be fast and slow at the same time. Like I said, it really felt like a mix of these two sort of genres from there, really. I haven't put a smiley face next to it. I think it just all went past me by. So, yeah, it just wasn't that good a song in comparison to some of the ones we're going to have a bit later on.
Okay, then we had One for the Road. So what stood out for me on this one was this sort of strange high singing voice. Definitely a lot better than the previous song. It was quieter for a start, but very speaky again. But just in general, not my style of song, but it was listenable at least.
Yeah, so I put here, this doesn't sound like old I'm going to refer back old school kind of Arctic Monkeys, has this kind of sort of chill, slow vibe. I've also put here, almost feels like a pop song, almost like a chorus, thing what you like, kind of like from a song, almost has this sort of typical verse and a chorus, whilst the other ones are like spoken poetry as such. But this one almost feels a bit like a traditional song.
Okay. Number 4 was Arabella. This had rocky parts to it. Again, I don't like. Again, I don't like the song. Basically, speaky style again as usual. The only positive is that it's not as bad as track 2.
Yeah, I feel like at the moment the track 2 is sort of the go-to in terms of comparison, if it's better or than that one. I didn't mind this one. Now, I know I said before that one was sort of like a blend of, like track 2 was a blend of the old and the new, which I thought this was as well, but it was definitely a better version of that. Definitely had more of a rocky element feel to it. I even put here a bit maybe sort of 70s psychedelic rock kind of thing to it as well, which we know they eventually transitioned towards this more sort of 70s. And even towards the later of the album, this kind of sort of 70s feel to it. So similar to track 2, but definitely a better version of it in terms of mixing the old and the new, in my opinion.
Okay. So then track 5 was I Want It All. So this is for me the first song with a bit of a tune to it. Not much happening though. Not enjoying it. I found it boring, and it was just an irritating sound. So yeah, it's a thumbs down from me for this one.
Yeah, I actually haven't got a lot on this one at all. I've just said it sounds very similar to a couple of previous tracks, just not as a good one, and it just sort of went me by. Just so it must have been quite boring. That's I haven't really got anything else to really say on that one.
Yeah, I mean at this point, I was thinking like this is probably the least enjoyable album I'll probably ever listen to, at least on doing these reviews. But things did take a turn with track 6 here. So it's called Number 1 Party Anthem, which, to be honest, it was anything but a party anthem. It's a slow song, and I just put it here straight away. This sounds much better. There is a tune to it. It's easily the best song so far. Quite a simple song, not too much going on, but it's okay. It started to build up a bit as well. So I just think because of what had gone before it, those 5 songs, this kind of really stood out as like, wow, I think it's quite an average song, but because of those previous 5, it actually felt quite impressive. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I think you probably wrote that one there. So I put a smiley face on it. Yeah, I really like this one. I've even put here sort of elements of the Beatles where it's kind of a bit, I don't want to say it's the experimental track of the album. I don't know if I've actually made a note which one that could potentially be, but it felt something a little bit different. It felt very modern, and I said not old school Arctic Monkeys. And even though it's still quite slow, it has this really nice sort of listenable, chill vibe to it. So yeah, if there was more songs like this on the album, definitely. And I said it does get better as we go on, but yeah, this was definitely a good turning point. So I do agree with you on that.
So then we had number 7, Mad Sounds, which is a very slow song. Actually sounds all right so far. That's what I put at that moment. And I've questioned here, like, has the album taken a turn for the better? To be quite honest, it's quite a boring song, but I'd much rather listen to this than the first 5 awful songs. And then actually, I can't remember how the tune of it, but the ooh la la bit
Ooh la la.
is quite good. And the song has improved as it's gone on. It's actually not bad. Definitely one of the best songs, possibly the best song, maybe. So yeah, I was definitely like a bit relieved at this point that those, track 6 and track 7 were a lot better.
Yeah, so put about the ooh la la ooh kind of bit here. Maybe this could be the experimental song on the album. It definitely didn't feel like, again, keep referring back to it, old school Arctic Monkeys, Bailey Good on. So it's totally different to that there at all. Really like the sort of start from it. I'd say really got my attention from that there. And there were some weird sounds kind of going on, but not enough to really stand out or affect the song badly in any way. Again, I've put it this sort of, it had this sort of 70s kind of feel to it, but all in a really sort of good way. Like I said, I didn't say I didn't put Smiley Face as one of the better ones, but it was definitely, I think I agree with you, better than a lot of some of the earlier tracks on the album.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so track 8 was Fireside. This had a head boppy start. It was all straight away. I was like, okay, nice kind of tune going on. Basically quite like the beat that was going on. Definitely better than the first 5 songs. I mean, it was the same beat all the way through. Maybe not that much variety going on with the song. It was, fairly average for me.
Yeah, I actually quite like this one. I think this goes back to your original point, about a lot of the songs not having a tune or beat or being like a song. Where this one, I think, felt more like a tune or a song. I even put here sort of the likes of like Coldplay, Travis, so that was sort of kind of soft rock indie, which I know Arctic Monkeys do come under anyway, but this felt more like that kind of genre of sort of music with it. Wouldn't dare say like more poppy as such, but it had a more sort of kind of upbeat. All the other stuff, when you feel like that, it could have been a bit more sort of, it's a bit more dreary, a bit more miserable kind of sounding to, which is fine to listen to. This one felt a bit more cheerful. Is maybe the better way to say it. So I actually quite like this one.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so the next one was Why Do You Only Call Me When You're High? This was quite a low-key song. Speaky again. Then it did start to rock up a bit, but overall didn't particularly like it.
I was surprised because I thought it was almost a sort of catchy chorus I've been here for this one. So I wonder if you were going to like this one. On a totally different side, sort of probably here, just to mention them. Petra Boys having a song title very similar to this, where they had You Only Tell Me You Love Me When You're Drunk, which I thought was quite similar to that one. But yeah, I thought this was actually an all right song. I like the sounds to it. Again, even though it's quite miserable sort of time and feeling to it, it was like that one, a bit more sort of upbeat, more poppy like, I think, because you almost had that sort of chorus element to it there. So again, these last couple of tracks are definitely better than like some of the earlier tracks on the album.
Okay. Next up, we have Snap Out of It. This one definitely does have a tune. Certainly better than the first 5, but still not really my type of thing, just in general, like this whole album. But yeah, it is what I would class as a proper song in my books. And I don't mind listening to it. It was listenable.
Yeah, I haven't got too much notes in this one. There's sort of in comparison, I was trying to compare it like with track A, where again it does feel like almost a poppy type song. It has this more sort of upbeat, less miserable kind of feel to it. And I've put here about like sort of the Scissor Sisters, who are kind of like a disco-y pop, indie kind of sound. And I think that's exactly what I sort of vibe I got from this particular song as well. So again, slowly really seeing this sort of transition from the earlier stuff that we would have known of Arctic Monkeys to this sort of kind of new kind of sounding transition that they're trying to do. So I thought it was all right.
Okay. And then we had Knee Socks, not making an impression on me. There was an interesting part after halfway through the song. It was either like a high-pitched man singing or a woman singing. Kind of changed it up a little bit, sort of snapped me out of like this kind of, okay, it's a bit boring, got kind of caught my attention. Again, it was listenable.
Yeah, I put here, so that was where the early tracks where I said they've almost got the old Arctic Monkeys mixing with like the new stuff of Arctic Monkeys. This one was almost like it was old Arctic Monkeys right at the start, and then it sort of changed. It was about halfway, as you said, or just a little bit later, where it was then this new style of them. And I didn't enjoy it as much from there, but at least liked it. There was some different elements to it, which we probably haven't said as we've gone through these tracks. At least there has been different variations in songs and tracks throughout. But yes, when you have it literally within the song itself.
Okay. And the last one then was I Want to Be Yours, which is a really slow one, quite relaxing, probably like a good song to end the album on, but it was a bit boring and it was repetitive. So, yeah, it was all right.
Yeah. I did quite like this one, maybe purely fake. I think maybe it was a good way to sort of end the album. And it's funny, so even though you've said really slow, I put it really slow, but I put here really, really slow with an exclamation mark. It was like I say, it almost really was a case of like really turning down the slowness, and it just felt really, really slow like that. But I think it was a good way to sort of end the album from there. And again, just put here very not just such a contrast to, again, hope no one's drink having a shot every time I mention this song, but when you bet you look good on dance floor, like the contrasts of those two songs, is sort of how I was going to end up sort of summing up in terms of the difference between the two. But I didn't mind that song. I thought it was, again, a nice way to sort of end the album.
Okay. So Brett, how would you sum up the album as a whole?
Yeah, like I said, it's a hard one to sum up. But like I said at the start, overall, I think I did quite like the album. But I think maybe after what you sort of said as well, maybe I said it because there was some not so great tracks on there. Suddenly, the tracks that I kind of like maybe seemed a lot better than they probably were in comparison to other albums. But like I said, I didn't feel that bad of it after listening to it. And as you said there, it's definitely, if you're splitting the album in two, the second half of the album is definitely the stronger side. If we talk about some things we normally always talk about, I said, wasn't too long of an album. The tracks weren't that long. There was variation into it. And it was just more, I think what I liked about it was interesting to see, I've repeated a lot, that sort of contrast of what I perceived as old style Arctic Monkeys. I knew what I thought and knew of them as the past, into this kind of new direction that they're generally going to, and you can really sort of see and feel that. I feel like this newer Arctic Monkeys is one that I probably would have preferred to listen to than their older stuff. So it is generally a thumbs up for me there, but maybe purely because the songs I did quite like, but the ones I didn't like, they were quite low down. So, but yeah, it's definitely by far not one of the worst albums I've had to listen to, in my opinion.
So before I give my kind of conclusion on them, it's obviously quite clear what I think of it. I know I've talked about this before with you. But maybe if the viewers, if there are any, they might not know. So I've always kind of said this, like if you go right down the middle, let's say you've got like cheesy pop in the middle, right? And then you kind of go to one side, you've got kind of the more rocky side of things, like kind of pop rock, and then once you go like really extreme, you like a sort of hardcore heavy metal kind of thing. So I've always gone more towards the other side. I'm more into kind of R&B, hip hop, rap kind of mixture with pop kind of thing. That kind of genre, not like hardcore hip hop or hardcore rap, but the kind of more kind of commercial kind of stuff. Like the last album we listened to, I've never heard of that guy from Costa Rica. I can't remember his name, but I like that. That's sort of my type of music. Whereas with this, like you mentioned the Scissor Sisters earlier during the review, you mentioned Travis. I don't like Travis. I don't like the Scissor Sisters. I don't think I like this sort of music. This kind of, how would you describe it? Kind of sort of soft rock, indie. I've never been a fan of it. There's like a few exceptions. I kind of quite like the Killers. And there's sort of some big soft like hits that's come out that I end up liking as well. So I think bearing that in mind, it's not really a big surprise that I didn't particularly like this. Like I said, it got better as it went on. Well, certainly the middle part, I think, was it tracks 6 and 7, I think, were probably the best pick of the bunch. But no, I just didn't get on with it. It's just not for me. It's not to say it's not good music. It just doesn't really appeal to me. So I know we're doing another album of theirs next.
That brings a nice introduction to this one.
But yeah, that's a different style of music apparently. So we'll see what that's all about. So yeah, thank you for watching. Don't be too harsh in the comment section, please. And we'll see you again soon for the next one. Bye.